Montagabend, wunderbare Gäste, die Manics Preachers. Gentlemen, great pleasure to have you here.
Cool.
How are you?
A bit tired, a bit tense.
Rashy, I've got a rash.
Just feeling a bit ill.
I've got a European rash.
Yeah, this
I'm on
weather.
top of the world, but
Where do you come from right now?
Belgium.
Brussels.
Home of the hits. Belgium.
Yeah, and we've just been doing lots of promotional stuff around Europe, so...
Have you played any gigs or just promotion too?
Yeah, we've done the one gig in Cuba, the one in... kind of radio gig in Denmark.
That wasn't a gig.
It was, and one in Cardiff as well.
How is it for you now, having a new record out and being on promotion tour again? Are you excited about that? Meeting journalists and talking about that, or is it like more than, oh, please God, get me through this?
I think it's a bit of both. I think, you know, the older you get, the harder it is to kind of motivate yourself to do those kind of things. It's easy getting on stage and doing a gig, but it's a lot harder to do the promotion. Well, that's what I find anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think kind of like 6 months down the line, you just see that you kind of, if you get there, kind of, you just start making answers up.
Do you worry criticism? I mean, if every magazine now would say, or be like, okay, they've done better tunes, okay, it's not that fascinating, I give them 3 points of 10. Would that touch you, or would that?
Yeah, it fucks us off enormously.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
really affects the way we sleep at night, definitely.
I think we got used to it, but it never makes it any easier. If things are misinterpreted and, you know, completely got the wrong way, then it's just very frustrating, you know, but it's happened so many times, you know, so apart from Everything Must Go, really, which was kind of critically appreciated by everyone in Britain, then we've never really had that. We've always been kind of just out on our own, doing our own thing anyway, so. History, as Fidel Castro said, history will absolve me.
Wow, good one. Okay, we start out the show with Motorcycle Emptiness. Yeah, so Know Your Enemy is out in a couple of days, and you get new songs, 16 at least, which is quite a lot, I think, for an album.
Yeah.
How would you describe, or what would you say about the album itself for you?
I kind of, it's just like, you know, much more instinctive than the last album, you know. At the end of the day, you know, the production is kind of kept down to a minimum. You know, we're just using kind of all our first ideas. And like, you know, it's just, you know, the album is just, it could have easily have been our first, as well as it, you know, it could easily be our last, you know. We think it's that good, you know. And just like, it's, compared to This Is My Truth, our last album, it's just, you know, a lot of it has got a much harder edge to it.
Yes.
But there's still little plots of confusion on there too.
There are a lot of different typed songs. In the beginning, it's more heavier.
Yeah.
I mean, not Ocean Spray, but the first 3 songs are very, very heavy. Then in the middle, Wattsville Blues is like, for me, it was pretty strange. I thought like, hey, what's that? And then afterwards, or in the middle, from tune 10, 11, you got this smile-making melodies. So there's everything in it. There's aggression and positive vibes.
Yeah.
So, do the songs belong to the same period of time?
Well, they're all written over about a 14-month period, I think. So, you know, we'd go into the studio, do 4 songs, then come back out of the studio, then write some more. Okay. So, like, you know, I think the way it would work is, say if we were in the studio doing some kind of more heavier guitar-driven songs, when we wrote some more songs after we finished recording them, they inevitably would turn out a bit different, you know.
Okay, so it's not like that you collect all the songs, then go into the studio, record them in a row.
Yeah,
we've done that in the past, and with this album we didn't want to do that. We didn't rehearse any songs, we didn't practice any songs, and that's why a lot of kind of rough edges exist on the album, because they were the first couple of takes, a lot of the backing tracks, and that's the way we wanted it this time.
Okay. So, as a band, you have grown together for more than 10 years now, and being in the studio, how is it like? Do you still discover unknown things at the other?
Yeah, definitely. You know, like you say, kind of, you know, there's a song called Wattsville Blues on the album, which is where we constructed that song and the way it was written was different, you know, than any other way we've worked before. You know, and same with a song like Miss You Up a Disco Dancer. You know, the way that was written and the way it was kind of like constructed was like, you know, completely new to us. So like, yeah, we were definitely finding new ways of going around, to create the music this time. Yeah. And it's definitely the easiest part of being in a band. Being in the studio is the easiest part.
Really?
Yeah, it is, yeah. By a million miles.
Wow.
We kind of discovered that James is living his life and in American time zone. He just goes to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm convinced he actually thinks he's living in New York constantly. You realise he just does the most bizarre hours that I've ever come across in my life. Because I go to bed very early.
Yeah.
And I had to stop him playing guitar sometimes because his guitars were so loud and I was keeping me up in the night.
Fuck.
That's actually true. I always get a good night's sleep in New York.
Okay. Is it like that you sometimes have really stress and say, hey man, I can't see you for 2 days now, go off and leave me alone? Or is it...
I think it's every now and again, making sure I don't want to be around when I'm doing guitar overdubs because they just realise I'm playing the same thing over and over again but just with different sounds. So like, you know...
Well, there was one moment in Wales where it was 5:45 in the morning. The sun was just rising. It's like a farm sort of place, and I could hear just humongous guitar. And I went into the studio, and James was just sat in a room with all his amps on. He wasn't playing a song or anything. He was just like pretending to be Slash, jamming with himself, basically.
That's good.
And I just looked at him and going, you know, why are you doing this? And he was just like, oh, it's great.
It's good.
So that's when I get in the car with Sean and go home.
Okay, coming up now is one of your first singles, Found That So. The video, I've seen it once, but it's a pretty weird one with all the spats and...
It's very cheap. It's only cost £5,000. It's done by an artist called Jeremy Della, who we've worked with before in various kind of concepts. And we just wanted something cheap and nasty like the record, a kind of Iggy and the Stooges sort of vibe to it. And it's just Manics fans reading their favourite books, really, mixed in with bats and stuff. Filmed in London Zoo in the night.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was filmed in the jungle somewhere.
No.
It's
filmed in the London jungle.
I think you're a band... No. For me, you're definitely a band who knows how to mobilize the will to live and make me to hold on to certain beliefs or certain things. So I'd like to give you now some topics, and I want to know your thoughts about that, just in a very few words.
Watch it.
So, yeah, watch it. Planet Earth, the planet we live on.
Well, my mum is really into this. She's a real eco-warrior, my mother. So she has a big influence on me, and I've always been a bit cynical about it, but I must admit the last couple of years I've really... I think it was about 7 or 8 weeks ago that there was a big summit in the European Union to cut emissions and everything else, and, you know, of course the good old America refused to comply with anything. And just, you know, America's like the biggest polluter in the free world. And as long as their economy is right, they don't give a shit, you know, they'll just kill everything as long as their economy's going.
Human behavior.
Start scratching.
Yeah.
He's very, very close to the primates, James.
Human behaviour. I just think, like, you know, just people are just much better kind of when they're actually interacting with people. Thinking of, like, you know, I think me and Nick probably disagree about it, but I don't certainly think that solitude or isolation is a good thing for humans. I think we're much better when we're actually interacting with people that we know or like or understand.
Technology.
Sean, ask Sean.
Our drummer is just...
Sean is technology.
Yeah.
The biggest technophile in the world. You know, he could fix any mainframe computer in the world. He could just, like, fix any heating system, any car, any laptop. He could just do anything. So our drummer is the connection to the outside, kind of like new technological world.
I think we all know technology is important, but after time the problem with technology is the actual content that's within technology. You know, it doesn't matter how great a leap forward is if actually what's inside the technology is worthless. Like with the internet, 50% of the internet is really good and exciting, but 50% of it is absolute just garbage, you know, just like any other thing. So no matter how quick you make it or, you know, whatever, it doesn't really matter if there's a lot of rubbish on it.
Belief.
Well, I mean, the older I get, the more spiritual I get. I have to say that. I don't want to go through a Bob Dylan religious phase here, but...
Good. Oh, was he?
I don't know, it's just the way I feel.
Good sense. Politics.
Dead.
God?
Dead.
Alive.
Really? Why do you think?
Excuse me, please.
Why do you think? Well, why do you say dead for you?
It's easy because
Yeah.
there's no balance in kind of like, you know, reward for good or bad. There's no balance in reward for doing good or bad things. It's completely imbalanced. Maybe a good person, but you still kind of like, you don't get any reward for it. You'd be a bad person, you can get rewarded in so many ways. You kind of like, you know, the length of your life has got nothing to do with how good you are in the life you live itself. So kind of like, all those rewards should be given by God, and he doesn't give them, so he must be dead.
It's an opinion.
That's the fucking truth.
No. Okay, do you think there's a need for socialization of moderation or humility? Do you know what I mean?
Sorry?
Do you think there's a need for a socialization of moderation or humility, that the people have keep the expectations in everything a lot lower? That
I think that might help society. Yeah, I think we have capitalism gives you gigantic expectation. You know, that's what it thrives on. The fact that even if you've got a Mercedes, then you must have a Porsche. If you've got a Porsche, you must have a McLaren. You know, that's what capitalism thrives on. And humility is a kind of outdated concept within capitalism, because capitalism is desire. You know, that's where it is. So there's nothing wrong with desires, but once you actually get them and you realise it's still shit, then humility is a very good thing, I think.
It's just the same with people, like, you know, constantly, like, use their vote by kind of choosing the government which is going to tax them less. They still expect, you know, just like all their healthcare and their education, etc., 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 you know, to function perfectly. But, like, you know, they constantly use their vote, you know, to vote for the government that's not going to tax them as much.
I think we could continue doing this, but second single from your album is coming up, the video for So Why So Sad. Do you want to tell something about that video? Because it's a pretty hard one.
It's just the idea of people not realising what's going on around them, the kind of a kind of an American aesthetic that as long as I'm getting a beautiful suntan, I don't really care that if there's an invasion going on. You know, it's just that idea of not being aware of the horrors of the world, being insulated to such an extent that you just don't realise what's going on around you.
I'm trying to tell you a little bit of my truth and want to hear more from your truth. So what do you, where have you found your solutions in your life, trying not to pray to the false cathedrals of our time, like capitalism and media and greed or hate and stuff like that?
I think you can only do it through knowledge. I think power is knowledge, and knowledge is power. And I think that, well, we've always tried to explore the kind of opposite side to what you're fed by the media in general, because there are always two sides to a story. And I think especially on the new album, you see that sometimes we just be in the opposite, just to be bloody minded, to show people that they're, you know, sometimes being politically incorrect is important, because you just get fed the same old rubbish otherwise. So I think it's easy. It's easy to see through lies. I mean, I don't know about, as far as capitalism goes, I'd love to say to you that I don't partake in capitalism, but I'd be lying, because I am a hypocrite and I do get caught up in it. I try not to, but
yeah,
I don't want to lie to you.
Nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Now you're on tour, and but besides that, when you're at home, do you lead quiet lives now? Or more quiet lives than 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
My kind of life is kind of like divided into like two sections. It's pretty schizophrenic, really. I've got periods where I just pretty much stay in, don't see many people. Then the other period is taken up with just going out and being very social and drinking lots of alcohol and killing my brain for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So like my life is quite schizophrenic.
A time for that and a time for that.
Yeah.
So being balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I just think James has got more friends. You know, sometimes he lives in London, sometimes he lives in Wales, but in London he's just got lots of friends. He goes out, he goes to concerts, goes to gigs, goes to films, whereas, I mean, I just don't do that. I still live in Wales and I just never go out. I don't have any friends and I'm quite happy that way, really.
What do you do at home when you're at home, just listening to music? What do you like best on being at home and having no people around you? And
I like being in my garden, just, you know,
chilling,
getting the weeds, a bit of weed in for my compost, with my dog, just pottering about, really. I just really like it.
Yeah, sounds good. And you, what do you like best?
About being in the house on my own. Just like watching films and reading. That's it, nothing else. I just like to get naked on my own. Watch films and just read.
What a thought.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, I think every journalist you met the last week to ask you the question, but I have to ask you too. What was it like, the gig in Cuba?
The gig itself was brilliant.
Yeah.
The gig was amazing because, you know, nobody knew any of our songs, you know. We didn't know if there was going to be an audience there. And like, you know, we arrived on stage and there were 5,000 people there and they were just all kind of like, just really going for it without even knowing really anything about us. Mm-hmm. So like, that's kind of like more than we could have expected at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a little crazy. I mean, you go to a country or to a place and you play there and you know that the people don't know you, but there's a 5,000 crowd. So
yeah,
it's like,
that was amazing. It was really gratifying. You know, I think we're quite cynical people, you know, but the phrase making a connection with an audience, you know, we never really use. But I think it was true that night, you know, kind of a connection was made, so to speak.
And the way to Cuba, how have you felt there? Was it like you had any expectations, or were you nervous, or was it like, okay, let's play a show?
No, I mean, I think we didn't. It'd be silly to have expectations because you're going into the unknown. You know, that's what we wanted. We wanted it to be an adventure, and you know, Cuba's got a lot of things that I really loved. It's got some things that, you know, are not so good, but didn't want to have any preconceptions because I think we had to get there to experience it, really. It's one of those countries that you have to visit to have an opinion because the media, especially the American media, is just such a load of rubbish what it says. There's so much bullshit that if you watch the American media, you just think Cuba was a third world country and a communist state that, you know, people just get killed every day. And it's just bullshit. Not. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a country it's really worth making the effort to go because in 10 years' time it could be just like any other Western holiday destination.
Yeah, I think. And even for the Americans.
Well, that's a good thing. You haven't got any fat Americans moaning about breakfast there at the moment, but in stupid shorts and looking really ugly. But in 5 years' time, God forbid.
All right. You experienced a lot, and I think you have been many places on this planet. Is there any situation which can make you think in a positive way, oh gosh, I can't believe that this is happening right now? I mean, you have played on 31st of December 1999 in the Cardiff Millennium Stadium. Yeah. Brilliant, absolute fascinating gig.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can touch you deep? Is it like that?
I think that night did, you know, because I think we all immediately thought of one of the first ever gigs we did in Cardiff. Mm-hmm. And there were 2 people in the audience when we first played Cardiff. And one of those was Richey's sister, you know, so...
The other one was our manager.
Yeah. So, like, you know, just actually, you know, kind of like seeing that kind of like, you know, kind of we were actually playing to like, you know, 65,000 people that night. It was like, you know, it was a big jump for us, you know, even in our kind of arrogance, even in our kind of like, you know, the insanity that's always been in our minds, I don't think we ever realised that we could actually, you know, make that jump from 3 people to 65,000. So, like, I think that kind of like, you know, we impressed ourselves that night.
I think that
the situation did, you know.
I think you're very down to ground or down on earth and very relaxed and very...
No, we've just felt like megalomaniacs. we felt all powerful.
I think after that gig we realised that we could never do any better than that in terms of scale, you know, in terms of the size. There's no point ever trying to recreate that. It was such a special night that we had to do things differently, really, and like meeting Castro and doing the gig in Cuba was just as special, but in a different way, you know. So I think we realised we couldn't chase ourselves trying to recreate that night in Cardiff because I don't think we ever will.